Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be continuing reading the entire Bible. So, remember we've been dealing with all the plagues because Pharaoh keeps lying to Moses about releasing his people. So this one's called the final plague based on Exodus chapter 10, verse 21 through chapter 12 of verse 51. This page right here. So let's go ahead and get into this, see what happens next. After 3 days of darkness, Pharaoh calls for Moses and Aaron again. Fine, you may take your women and children, but your sheep and cattle must remain in Egypt. No, we won't leave a single hoof behind when we go. Then you'll all stay right where you are. Get out of my sight. If I see your face again, you will die. But Moses is no longer afraid of Pharaoh. That's what you said, or that's what you say. Here's what the Lord says. Tonight, every firstborn son in Egypt will die, including yours. O Pharaoh, you will know grief worse than any Egypt has ever experienced. And then you will come to me on your hands and knees, and you will beg for my people to leave. So this is also one of a very well-known story as well, where every firstborn son will die. The death angel will come over and take all of them, including Pharaoh's son. Unless, I believe it was like lamb's blood spread above the door, then he wouldn't visit that home, basically, and take the firstborn child. Hence, what Moses and all of them, did, all the Hebrews did. And the Egyptians, unfortunately, suffered, in great grief due to Pharaoh's ignorance, really. Quickly, Moses calls for a meeting of the Hebrew leaders. God told me that the angel of death will strike Egypt and take the firstborn of every family. Firstborn of every family? No. Moses instructs the Hebrews of how to protect their families. And as we can see them here, spreading the blood above all their doors, as they talk among themselves, surely this will bring our release from slavery. 9 times Pharaoh has broken his promise to let us go. What will he do this time? Why are you putting lamb's blood on your door post? God told Moses it would be a sign to let the angel of death know to pass over our house. That evening, every Hebrew family packs all of their possessions, hoping that they will finally be able to leave Egypt. They eat a meal called the Passover because the angel of death will pass over their homes. Henceforth, that will be known all the way, up to Jesus' time, really, even. So the Passover, now, anytime you hear that, you know what that means. Just before midnight, they begin to talk among themselves, what is it? I have no idea. What is it, Mommy? It's God's destroyer come away from the window. There's now people screaming, no, help. Then at the stroke of midnight, the Lord strikes down all the firstborn of Egypt, but every Hebrew house with lamb's blood on its doors passed over. As you can get a glimpse of maybe what they had seen that night, you read the angel of death, the destroyer, as they described it, coming to, do what God has commanded it to. God will give us the signal to leave any moment now. We must be prepared to leave at a moment's notice. Be ready for the signal to march. In the palace, somebody runs, to the Pharaoh. Your son is dead, O Pharaoh. And messengers bring word that the firstborn of every Egyptian home has died suddenly. My son? Summon Moses and Aaron to come immediately. It's too late. My son is dead. As his wife, cries. He's going to send him home. But look at all that Pharaoh could have avoided if he would have just let the people go. But in his selfishness and his arrogance, he destroyed Egypt, their crops, the people, his son, his own son, and many more suffered, a horrible fate, that they didn't have to go through if it wasn't for what Pharaoh had done. If Pharaoh would have just let him go, listen to Moses, saw the power that God, he just felt like he was unstoppable, I guess, but he's nothing compared to God. And being a ruler of Egypt is nothing like being, the ruler over all. God rules all the universe, everything. And all this he could avoid if you would just listen to him. And that's something we need to take. All the things that can be avoided if you just take the time to listen or take the time to really do what is right. Instead of, being in your own arrogance and your own selfishness and doing what you want to do, or, not listening to others or not listening to God. And, that's where a lot of people fail. They don't listen to God. They don't care what he thinks, or they don't care what he says. And unfortunately, that, leads to their own. I think his name might have been like Inky Johnson or something like that. He was a football player. And God told him to go one way, but instead he wanted to go his own way, with football. And unfortunately, that, involved it, and eventually made him, he lost his arm due to it. And then he ended up going the way God had planned for him, anyways. But if he would just listen to God and go the way he had told him to, he would still have his arm to this day. And I'm not saying that God's going to sit there and take your arm away or something like that, or make you paralyzed. He's not going to sit there and, destroy you. But, there are things that can be avoided in your life if we just listen and take the time to listen, to other people and to God. This time Pharaoh does not bargain about cattle or sheep. Take your people, take your cattle, and get out of Egypt. Serve your God as you wish. Moses gives the order to march immediately. The slaves rush out from their homes and meet at the camp in the country. As they shout out, we're free, we're free. Thank God my children will not be slaves in Egypt. So, now they are happily free of Egypt and, off on their own adventure. So we'll see where this leads us next. As always, take it easy, and I'll catch you guys next week.